Good morning, Coffee Moaners. Welcome to Coffee Moaning today, Wednesday, Wednesday the 27th. Welcome to those who, some of you might have been on Instagram a moment ago. Welcome. For those of you listening on podcast, welcome. If you hear me talking to people, about people, I haven't lost my mind, though I am close to losing my mind. I am talking to our wondrous people, the wondrous people in our community, in the live chat. For those of you who are members, obviously last night Nadia was struggling with a really, really bad migraine, a stress migraine, I think. And we will be live tonight with a No Name Sunday show that should have been on a Monday, was going to be on a Tuesday, and is now on a Wednesday. So we'll see you tonight for a non-political chit chat. So I've set this light to hang on, let me de-Trumpify myself. It's becoming orangier and orangier than Trump. So we'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock for a non-political shindig get together. But yeah, so let me just turn it off. It's really distracting. I've got my phone on there, but it's a running reel. So what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to be talking about Nigel Farage, I'm afraid. Yes. Look, I say afraid, so many people like what he's saying. And, we have had some frank conversations. I know there are some people in the room here who feel that he speaks for them and that reform might be the answer. But I do want to talk a little bit more about the language he used yesterday or in the last few days regarding mass deportations. I want to talk about what the fuck is a Hamas camera? What is a Hamas camera? That apparently is one of the rationales or justifications. Sorry, what is going on with this light? That is one of the rationales. That is one of the reasons being used by the IDF and Israel for why they double tap struck Nasser hospital, which we've talked about for the last 2 days. And it's important that these stories don't get nudged out of the news, because that's exactly what they want to happen. They want these stories to move on. Nothing to see here. You know that thing? You get a police cordon, nothing to see here, love, nothing to see here. Move along, move along, move along. That's literally what the world's media is going, move along, nothing to see here. So we're going to be talking about whatever the fuck a Hamas camera is. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So we're going to talk about that. Apparently, Donald Trump feels that he can solve the Gaza crisis today. He's calling together he's calling a meeting. He loves a meeting. He's calling a meeting today. And he thinks and believes he can solve the crisis by the end of the week. And the big news outside of global politics is Taylor Swift has announced her engagement with a bunch of lovely photos. And really, I don't want to throw any shade over their joy or happiness. And I know that we have lots of Swifties in the room and in the community. So I'm not saying for a minute that she shouldn't, we shouldn't talk about it. But I want to just ask the question, is something like Taylor Swift at a time like now where the world feels, I'd imagine, even if you're not, I mean, I'll tell you what, though. I was talking to Naz this morning. She was saying, I do wonder sometimes if ignorance is bliss. Is ignorance bliss? I look at Chi-Chi sometimes and I think, she's happy. She's happy. And she doesn't know about global politics. But do we want to be happy like a dog? At what point is ignorance good? At what point is ignorance a dereliction of duty as a human? And are things like Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, is that how you pronounce it, getting married, is that a pleasant distraction? Is that just like an apolitical, non-political, pleasant bit of news that we could all just feed on? Oh, look, me too. See, Radio 4 Today program played out with a Swiftie song. I do think there's an important thing to be said here. I mean, Dina, we all love Dina. Dina contacted this morning and said, I hope you're going to talk about the fact that the BBC is talking about 25 minutes. And I get what she's saying. It feels crass when you kind of juxtapose, I love that word, when you juxtapose something like, her with an expensive wedding ring, engagement ring, and then you see the atrocities that are going on in the world. But not everyone is seeing things right alongside each other. Do you get what I mean? So for anyone who's not plugged into Gaza, it's like, what's the fucking problem? Nice bit of news. And also at the same time, I think it's important that we do have escape and we do have the ability to not circumnavigate entirely. That's different. But I just think there's an interesting debate to be had there in terms of, it was part of what I was kind of driving at. I did a bit of a mental health catch up, which I have to confess, rather selfishly, are really useful for me, opener in my mouth, a little bit like in an AA meeting, which I did last night. Do go and check it out if you want. So, guys, so how are you all? How are you doing? Stuart G, hi, your garden's looking amazing, by the way, Stuart. Nothing better than putting status quo on YouTube and forgetting everything. There you go. And just because you put status quo on YouTube doesn't mean you're all pro the status quo in the world, if you know what I mean. See what I did there? Clever. No, I get you, Stuart. You know, gardening, doing things, cooking. I mean, you know, for Nadia and Dina, you know, food, cooking, curly cooks, you know, where is that escape? Where is that escape? We all need a therapeutic escape. I mean, you know, I'll never cease to. I mean, I saw some footage the other day of children in Palestine using the, what do you call it? Using the kind of material of a parachute that had parachuted aid in as a kind of toy, as a kind of thing to play in, and they were jumping around the segments of it. You know, it's all relative. It's all relative. Fee, let's have a few comments, then we'll crack on. Fee, my friend, a high flyer, does not want to know anything about Palestine and says it affects me and that I'm not fun. She gets aggressive about it. You know why she gets aggressive about it, though? She's not racist or anti anyone. No, I get it. The reason she'll get aggressive about it, this is a weird parallel. It's like when I stopped drinking, lots of my people in my social circle didn't want to be friends with me, quite literally, and that's bizarre, isn't it? Didn't really want to be friends with me. They got angry about me not drinking, not because they were angry at me for not drinking, but they were angry with themselves. So the way you can kind of, the reason she'll be angry is because she or he knows that you're kind of, it's right that you're affected, and they perhaps just don't feel they can get there. A lot of anger in the world is born of people, and this is a truism in families. A lot of conflict, a lot of strife, and a lot of issues between people and groups of people can happen when one group of people or one person can't actually imagine being able to be selfless or kind, so they get angry about it. It's a thing. Let's talk about. Please don't talk about Taylor. See, we don't care. It's not. You see, Charlotte Bond. There you go. So, you know, and this is great. Don't talk about Taylor. We don't care. It's not news, for fuck's sake. Well, you're totally alongside Dina, my sister-in-law. Everyone knows Dina in the room here, who's regulars on the channel. I get you. So that's what I want to ask. Should the news offer up anything that's a distraction? Just pleasant news. It's cardboard. I mean, people get really, I mean, I'm not suggesting you do, Charlotte, but I mean, a lot of people get their knickers in a twist, don't they, about celebrity and like celebrity news. But isn't that, I mean, like me and Nads quite proudly will turn our brains off, though we're really always on our phones, watching fucking Real Housewives. I still think we should do Real Housewives of Croydon on that note with Nadia and Dina and still use the same music and create the same dramas about nothing. Raspberry Mojito Girl, true Charlotte Bond, don't care either. Well, let's talk about not caring later. We'll do that. We'll talk about it later. It's much more important. Gabrielle, see, it's interesting. Most of you feel, I mean, I feel like that. I feel there's more important things, but, you know, one doesn't want to be a bar humbug. But does it matter? Who do we care if we're being a bar humbug? Farage, oh dear. I'm trying to think. Someone used an analogy. I think it was Jennifer Saunders. I think Jennifer Saunders described him as looking like a sewage pipe. Oh, no, not a sewage pipe. What's it called? You know, guttering, like a guttering. Anyway, Nigel Farage has been attacked, has he? For ugly rhetoric of plan for mass deportation of asylum seekers. I think this is wishful thinking. This is a Guardian headline. I don't think he has been attacked. I think what's been remarkable about him suggesting that from day one he's going to get 600,000 asylum seekers out the country. I didn't know there were that many a year. I thought when we looked at the numbers the other day, I didn't think there were that many. Anyway, he's promising to get rid of 600,000 asylum seekers on day one or something along those lines. He wants to tear up the European Convention on Human Rights. He wants to send them to Afghanistan. He's calling his policy Operation Restoring Justice. Let me just play you a little bit from the big man himself, from the drain pipe. Let's show you a little bit about the drain pipe.
Now, as a result of this, a genuine threat to public order. And that is the very last thing that we want. And I've been saying, of course, for a long time, that it's a growing threat to our national security.
Is it a growing threat? Okay, here's a question. Is the asylum crisis, and there is an issue with the number of people, and the issue is a global issue, is it a threat to civil, order? What did he say? Let me have another listen to him again.
Now, as a result of this, a genuine threat to public order.
Public order. Is there actually a threat to public order? Or, here's the other question. I'd like to ask him this over a pint, but I don't drink. And he'd probably find me boring because I don't drink. I'd say, is there a threat to public order, Nige? Or is you saying there's a threat to public order, a threat to public order? Which is it? Because it strikes me that there's flames and then there's the fanning of flames. And I haven't really seen massive flames. Yes, there's a lot of kind of discontent. Yes, there's a lot of frustration. Yes, there's a belief that, it's all the asylum seekers' faults. That apparently news today that shops, physical shops just aren't recruiting because of national insurance changes and all this kind of stuff. So that is that the asylum seekers' fault? I don't know. Is the threat to public order? Where is that threat? Where's he saying that? Now, of course, he talks about the threat to our women, the threat to our children. This is something we've talked about a lot. And that's not to say that you don't have migrants and asylum seekers who do harass. It's not to say that there aren't major issues, and there are major issues with blending foreign cultures with an indigenous culture. And when I say an indigenous culture, I'm not talking about white British male. I'm just talking about, just the most basic, speaking the language and understanding the social mores of just kind of going about your life. Of course, there needs to be a stronger system to process all of this. I just can't help but feel, it's a problem, but is the solution, has he hit upon the right solution? Or is this just easy fascist rhetoric? Someone somewhere has priced up what his promises are and said it would cost something in the region of £47.5 billion. Something ludicrous. Farage claims that the program would deport up to 600,000 asylum seekers, not in a year, but in the first parliament. So across 5 years, 600,000 asylum seekers would be got rid of. But a report for the Centre for Migration Control produced costings for a similar sort of deportation scheme, and it estimated it would cost £47.5 billion. Dorney, yes. So anyway, so this headline where I think the Guardian's wishful thinking, saying, "Oh, he's been attacked for ugly rhetoric." Not really. The head of the Conservative Party have said, "You've nicked our idea." And the Labour Party have refused to condemn his strongest use of language. So clearly it's just felt that unless you are behind the reform idea, you're just not going to get in at the next election. Do you agree? For you guys, is asylum seeking and the refugee crisis, is this the decider for you at the next election? Yes or no? Is that what you would be voting on? Because these parties must know something. Reform wouldn't be leading on this and becoming as popular as they are. He's a fascist pretending to be a popularist, fun times forever. Isn't that what fascism is? Isn't that how fascism operates? It's populist, and then it's even potentially socialist. Don't forget the Nazi Party was the National Socialist Workers' Party. The idea is they appeal to a working class disenfranchisement, which traditionally and historically in this country, the Labour Party has built. That's why there's this odd convection point where, Labour supporters pivot to reform. One would think, how does that marry? But because they're both speaking towards a sort of, lower end of the economic kind of, class system. Mandy Roberts, no. Most of you are saying no. Julie, I think you said yes. Conservatives, DP saying you've nicked our idea. like they were never empowered to do anything. Lol. I think the reason we can't just dismiss the Conservatives is I've got this sneaky suspicion that they're going to be the party that, I mean, just pause on that thought for a minute. We really are in a situation. Has anyone else noticed how we've just drifted to a place where Reform are the opposition? They've only got 6 fucking MPs or something in the House of Commons, but they really are the opposition now, aren't they? I mean, it's like they hit the headlines, and it's the Tories going, "You've nicked our ideas." But believe me, the Tories will be instrumental in any Reform government. Arsenal, 800,000. I find it so hard to say your name. I'm only joking, as a Spurs fan. 800,000 signed up to your party. I always think you mean your party. Yeah, I got an email today. I've signed up to it too, saying, "What do you want to call your party?" And I was like, "Oh, fucking hell, I haven't got time for that." Can someone else decide on what it's called? Robert Marriott, I'm with you. Who here has signed up to your party? Is the name given to the Corbyn Sultana ticket? I mean, although it has 800,000 sign-ups, my concern, MeTube, you're a great parliamentarian, you know the sort of logistics of this, isn't the concern that those 800,000 could be concentrated, not just in London, but in areas where there's a more, if you like, progressive, liberal kind of population? I will be signing up. I have Sharon Carter. I have me too. Oh, right, quite a few. I think you have. I put Unite UK. Mandy Roberts. Which one's Unite UK? Oh, that's the name you put. Oh, is that the name that you're given the choice of? Most Reform vote supporters want re-migrations to send back all foreigners, even those born of legal immigrants. Micha. Well, but let's pause on that for a minute. So would that mean that Nadia, as the daughter of a Jordanian, would there be a push? Because I think what's happening is for most families of any blended ethnicity or, you know, mixed ethnic kind of origins, it's a bit fucking concerning, isn't it? Micha, would you? I mean, people like Teddy would be, I guess, vulnerable. He's a fully Jordanian. Would then the children, even if those children were born in the UK? I mean, you know, how far is Trump going to go, and how far, by extension, will Farage follow? Could we really see ships and ships filled with people and sent off? Would we be happy with that as a nation? I mean, there's a lot. We're very critical of that British sensibility, but surely there will come a point. I mean, I'm just thinking of shows like Britain's Got Talent. We always love an underdog, don't we? I mean, we've got to the point now where Britain's Got Talent wouldn't work without migrants, would it? Most of the people in it and who win it are from abroad because we haven't got any talent, I think. Claire Scott, it starts with asylum seekers and will end with legal immigrants. Yeah, oh God, you see, and then this leads to the bigger question of what do we all do? Okay, if Reform win the next election, what are you all going to do? How are you going to all live with that or deal with that or cope with that? Is that the end of days? BLZ Beeb. Oh, then I guess you won't vote and won't get a say. Who's that? Who you replying to? Britain's not got talent, Lady T. The Nazis did it. Yeah. RUO. There was an interesting chat on Zeteo last night with a Palestinian woman who was threatened by ICE to be sent back after 14 years of legally doing the right thing. It's quite something, isn't it? My dad was Polish, Janina M. So do I have to go back to Eastern Europe? I mean, yeah, then you're going to get into the kind of really, what are they going to do? God, suddenly maybe these DNA kind of ancestry websites are a little bit more suspicious than we think. That would mean I'll be sent back to, I think I'll be sent back to to northern France. Oh, God. You can bet there will be a UK ICE with Reform, says MeTube. Okay, well, that's very depressing, isn't it? Very depressing. Okay, well, I don't know how to kind of, the other topic that we're going to talk about today is a Hamas camera. Did anyone see, we've talked at great length about the double tap attack on the NASA medical establishment in Gaza City. We've shown the footage a couple of days in a row. It's tragic, it's ghastly. 5 journalists were killed. Let's not forget 15 others were killed too. Benjamin Netanyahu used language that even Sky reporters found curious when he described it as a tragic mishap. But then we have the news that actually and I think the Golani Brigade, which is one of the brigades in the IDF, the Israeli army, I think as I understand it, I think they may have been responsible for the ammunition that hit the target. But apparently there's a bit of an argument breaking out, not about the rights and wrongs and the wherefores of having killed these innocent people, targeted journalists, and this spurious idea that it's a Hamas camera that they saw on the stairwell. Some journalists are suggesting that there is a camera there which is used as a live feed for other journalists around the world. And the reason this stairwell, can you believe this is where we've got to? I mean, we all know the difficult sometimes when you're in a house and you can't get a signal. So journalists, all the remaining journalists, or anyone who tries to be a journalist in Gaza, has to kind of get to this place because it's the highest point where you can potentially get signal. Imagine that. Let's just pause for a second on the fact that not only is the international, media not allowed in there, but they've turned off all of the kind of Wi-Fi and 4G. They can't even get a signal. That's how controlled, that's how clamped down the system is over there. So how, getting material out, when you see these reels, when you see these Instagram posts, when you see these clips, anyone who's got that clip out has risked everything because they've made themselves visible for the moment that they're uploading, they're downloading, they're transferring, they're airdropping, whatever it is, however they're doing. I can't even begin. I go into a tailspin if the Wi-Fi goes down in a Curly Cooks live. Imagine trying to get these images out. Just high resolution images that you see on, say, the Al Jazeera Instagram account or Middle Eastern Eye or in The Guardian. Really difficult to get this stuff out. So the double tap hit on this stairwell, them saying there was a Hamas camera, then, Benjamin Netanyahu saying it was a tragic mishap. But now the army is saying it wasn't a mishap, it wasn't a tragic mishap. We were told to do it. So I'm going to play you a clip from an Israeli news channel. It's in Hebrew, so you'll have to read and watch. So if you're listening, apologies, but you'll have to read and watch the subtitles. But check this out.
שעושה הרבה רעש משעות הבוקר, אבל נכון לערב זה, מהפרטים שאספנו עד כה, עולה במפורש, לוחמינו פעלו כנדרש. אנחנו מפרסמים כעת לאחר שיחה עם הכוחות המעורבים בתקיפה המדוברת, הם טוענים בצורה חד משמעית, התקיפה אושרה ותואמה עם הפיקוד הבכיר, והם ידעו עליה טרם בוצעה. כמו כן, בימים האחרונים, מזהים בסיירת גולני, באחת הקומות העליונות במפקדת הטרור נאסר, מותקנת מצלמה מתקדמת שמתצפתת עליהם ואוספת מודיעין ככל הנראה לקראת ביצוע פעולת טרור שתסכן את חייהם. נוסף על כך, אנשי המודיעין מבינים כי מי שמפעילים אותה אלה פעילי טרור, ועל כן מחליטים לבצע תקיפה להסרת האיום. עוד מעידים הלוחמים איתם שוחחנו, בוודאות זיהינו חמושים באזור שהותקף, והתקיפה בוצעה על פי הנהלים שהוגדרו לנו.
Okay, we've heard enough of that propaganda. So we're in a curious situation now. Did you see that? Where the camera, the Hamas camera, was recording intelligence. So we're now in a situation where every target they hit and every civilian they kill, even though their own statistics show that 83% of those dead are civilians, every target they hit, every mistake, it's like that stings. Every step we take, every mistake we make, we kill gazillions of civilians. But there was a Hamas operative there. The reason we killed the paramedics, that were, all 15 of them, and buried their bodies, was because there was Hamas in there until we dug them up or someone found his mobile phone and realized it wasn't the case. So what they're now saying is, it says this is the new catch-all for cameras. Because all cameras, if you want to use that term intelligence, all cameras point, all cameras photograph, all cameras take images. Is taking an image of now anything in Gaza intelligence gathering for Hamas? And this speaks to the absolute bilge that came out of the likes of Danny Cohen and all those lot who got those documentaries pulled down, regarding, being a child in Gaza and, in a war zone. So now any imagery is intelligence. Well, I'm afraid you can't say that because you won't allow the international media in there. And I must stress once again, do not think that just letting the world's media in there is a great thing. Imagine if they turn around and go, oh, okay, well, we're going to let Fox News in and they can have unfettered access to everything. Do we think Fox News is going to report things honestly, with neutrality? They're going to be like the influencers that Israel paid to go to the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Did you see them running around saying it's like McDonald's here? It's all fantastic. They flew in influencers to run around and post reels about how brilliant the GHF was. So now it was a Hamas camera because it was filming. So now filming is intelligence gathering, and intelligence gathering means that everyone is following what the Israeli army is doing. And boy, oh boy, do we know that the IDF does not like to be filmed doing anything. I wonder why. I wonder why. So, you've got to sort of, let's just draw that parallel between, do you remember after World War II, everyone said, how could so many people in Germany not know what was going on or not be aware of the severity of what was going on? And here you have the kind of news that's being fed to the population, which presumably must be why a statistic like this stands up, that 76% of Israeli Jews believe there are no innocents in Gaza. I'd like to point you back to Superman. In the new Superman film, he even has a couple of lines in there where he talks about there being potentially a compelling argument to not necessarily mass slaughter even those who are resisting or those who are considered to be terrorists. I shared it yesterday, I heard a guy who'd served in Northern Ireland saying the British Army, not to say that I acknowledge a number of Irish people said afterwards, look, the British Army were unforgivable in some of the things they did, in many things that they did in Northern Ireland. I get that. But this guy clearly was quite an honourable guy. And he was saying there were so many rules and regulations in place, meaning that they couldn't just randomly shoot and take out loads of civilians and just use the argument of human shields. So, when you see footage like this, you sort of think, okay, well, what are Israeli people being told? And then you get news like this. Look, German Chancellor says he doesn't believe Israeli strike targeted journalists. Well, what does he believe? I know, it's funny, isn't it? Does anyone else get this? It's the weirdest headlines or the weirdest bits of news in a day that make you literally find a spike and slam your head against it with disbelief. This guy's an intelligent guy, German Chancellor. Why would you? How does that add to anything? Says he doesn't believe. Rather than saying he doesn't believe Israel striked targeted journalists, you should be condemning the death of the journalists. They hit the journalists. They've killed 5 journalists. What do you mean they didn't? So it was targeted because it was hit once. It was targeted because then it was hit a second time. And if journalists were dead, then that journalists were targeted. This is empirically provable, you moron. That's Hamas. So I'm just going to have a drink from my Hamas bottle. So if a camera's pointing anywhere in Gaza, it's a Hamas camera. It's gathering intelligence. Oh my God, is to talk about this. Is this disseminating Hamas? I mean, do you see how the Zionist Israeli governmental approach to all of this, who tries to hoover up, tries to bundle up and sweep into a pile every form of opposition into Hamas? I mean, it's farcical. It's got to the point where if Israel, you were having an argument with Israel and they were your partner in the kitchen, you'd have to be roaring with laughter in their face. Oh, for God's sake. The world has got the ick, Israel. We've so got the ick. And you're doing nothing to make it any better. Just read that. German Chancellor says he doesn't believe Israeli strike targeted journalists. Hang on a minute. Journalists were targeted. Journalists were killed. I don't understand how he could even say that. Just don't get it. I mean, in around this topic, apart from David Lammy's 3-sentence comment, hasn't come out, hasn't said anything, just hoping this story just fades away as they do with everything. The Guardian is reporting that hundreds of senior diplomats are demanding, sorry, let me just one second, let me just find the story. I can't believe the German Chancellor. Sorry, just one second. A public letter signed by senior diplomats calls for urgent action. So a letter has been signed by 209 former EU ambassadors, diplomatic staff and ambassadors, calling for urgent action. And they say that if the European Union will not act collectively, this is interesting, member states should take steps individually or in smaller groups to support human rights and uphold international law. So that would presumably mean things like support things like the flotilla. You know, we've talked for a while about how when you're faced with an obstruction or a bully, when you're faced with a bully like this, you have to at some point send in security and manhandle them out of the playground. And I only think that when I say military action, no one's talking about an attack on Israel or challenging Israel's right to exist or say, you know, don't get your knickers in a twist. We're talking about not killing more and more innocent people and not actually really using Hamas as now a spurious reason and rationale to occupy the Gaza Strip and continue to resettle the West Bank. So there has to be, the only way you can do this is you need some kind of neutral military team to go in and go, stop. Someone has to go, stop. If the Palestinians say stop, they're called a terrorist. I mean, this is where we're at. If anyone in Gaza says stop, they're characterized as a terrorist. Have you noticed how the ability to defend your land, your family, your food supply, your business in the West Bank or Gaza is immediately characterized as terrorism? And the West parrots this stuff out there. The West doesn't challenge this. The media doesn't challenge this. And in other news, so, you know, the constriction and the besieged situation in Gaza City increases. Hello, at the back of the room, Hamas agreed to a ceasefire. Again, this is subtitled. This is from Qatar.
Very clearly that there is no engagement, meaning that we are still waiting for an answer. And the statements that we are hearing right now do not fill us with confidence that if there was engagement, that engagement would be positive and towards finding a solution. We have to say it very clearly. The responsibility now lies on the Israeli side to respond to an offer that is on the table. Anything else is political posturing by the Israeli side.
Very clear. I'll play the beginning of that again. This is him reiterating to the world and reminding the world that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire deal, the same deal that Trump tabled 2 or 3 months ago. No response from Israel. Instead, they're just trying to find Hamas cameras to blow up. So when you hear the beginning of this again, just listen to this. Listen to this. This is not being reported. This is not being reported in the Western media. Just this statement from Qatar, which is where the negotiations have been ongoing. Let's have another listen.
Very clearly that there is no engagement, meaning that we are still waiting for an answer. And the statements that we are hearing right now do not fill us with confidence that if there was engagement, that engagement would be positive and towards finding a solution. We have to say it very clearly. The responsibility now lies on the Israeli side to respond to an offer that is on the table. Anything else is political posturing by the Israeli side.
Everything else is posturing by the Israeli side. They're just seeking to obscure and deny or just not even acknowledge. I mean, why have we not heard Starmer or Lammy say to Israel, okay, well, what's your response? You need to force Netanyahu to make a public statement about this ceasefire deal. But no one's even asking him because no one wants to, because they don't want to put him in the awkward situation. I mean, the culpability is so extraordinary. And the problem here, me and Nadia differ on this completely. Many people, feel eventually, the day will come, they will be proven, and they'll be in The Hague, and it will be this appeasement. I don't agree. The ICJ is fucking useless. There's no process. There's going to be no due process. Look at the world. Look how the world is shaking out. Look what's happening in America. Just today, the 50% tariffs that he's insisting on imposing on India, India has said, fine, we'll turn more to Russia and China. The world is coming apart in terms of the old structure. I'm not even suggesting it shouldn't come apart, because the old structure's fucked too. But as the world comes apart, don't pretend there's going to be some, some civilized Hague court procedure for these people. There isn't. The ICJ has actually become an albatross around everyone in the activist movement being able to say there is a genocide going on, because all that the politicians do, all that Labour does now is point to the, well, it hasn't been, we haven't had that sort of finding yet, that hasn't been decided. But just because that's the court doesn't mean it's not happening. So if someone dies, have they not died unless the court, the ICJ, says they've died? So the ICJ is irrelevant now. And that's what America and Israel have done by not heeding it at all. They've made it an irrelevance. I also just want to show you, this clip is really odd. You may think, well, what's this got to do with anything? But the reason I want to show this clip is it speaks to the American imperialist idea and the Israeli imperialist, white supremacist, colonialist approach to Arab culture, and anyone that isn't of that privileged Israeli, essentially Eurocentric, America-centric, white male kind of thing. A sort of colonialist language. Listen to the way this guy, who's an envoy, a US envoy, I think, to Turkey, and he was talking to a press conference room of journalists in Lebanon. Listen to the way he characterizes the Lebanese media.
Okay, wait. We're going to have a different set of rules, right? Please be quiet for a moment. And I want to tell you something. The moment that this starts becoming chaotic, like animalistic, we're gone. So you want to know what's happening? Act civilized, act kind, act tolerant, because this is the problem with what's happening in the region.
Act civilized, act kind, act tolerant. This is the problem that's occurring in the region. Do you see how, can you begin to get just a scintilla of the DNA of fury that any Arab person would feel with an American and the Israelis waltzing in and using all this language of savagery everywhere, barbarians everywhere, and because we use missiles and wear uniforms? Come on, this is animalistic. This is plain and simple racism, profound imperialist, colonialist racism. It's unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. Wow. Maybe I'll have to hold is Trump dying back for a standalone, maybe. So the other big story that we have to talk about, because I said we would talk about it, is in the light of everything we've just been talking about. Yeah, why don't you, Charlene Evans? Yeah, you're one of the animals. How? That's so. Sorry, just for a minute. That passive aggressive, supercilious, exceptionalist, male, privileged. You know, do you mind calming? He's in their country. Do you mind calming down? This speaks to the problem in the region. With all due respect, have you seen the footage of the Israeli settlers? With all due respect, have you seen the footage of, you know, the far right fucking riots that have broken out in America? Who's civilized? How dare he? How dare he? I see sometimes in my father-in-law, who's Jordanian's, eyes, I see his heartbreak. I really do. I mean, he's 92 now. And I feel, because I'm white and I'm male and my family is classic English, you feel kind of responsible. I see his heartbreak. I see in my father-in-law's eyes a trust that he had and held for the structures of society, etc. Certainly in this country, less America, obviously. And I just see that trust. I see heartbreak. I see that he is heartbroken on a spiritual level. Every time I see Teddy, I can see and feel his heartbreak. So you can just you know, and that's in the mind and body of a man who's been around the world, and he's 92. He hasn't got the energy to fight. But we then ask ourselves, why? Why us plowing around in that region is met with any kind of resistance? Oh, yeah, bless him. He's not alone, Ruto. Thank you. Okay, which does, I suppose, in a weird way, the intensity of everything we've talked about is a good prelude to the Taylor Swift story. Because in the light of all of that, is Taylor Swift getting married in any way, in any form, nice news or good news? And I don't ask that with an edge. I think it's absolutely fine to find in something like this a much needed escape. So this is the news that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, is that how you pronounce it, are to marry. The 35-year-old singer posted on Instagram. I'm going to show you the photos. Of course, everyone sort of speculating on the value of the diamond ring. It's worth £500,000. And in the caption, Swift writes, "Your English teacher and your gym teacher are getting married." And so here are the images. I mean, that's a stunning image, has to be said. Wow, look at those flowers. Here they are, all loved up. There's the ring. And there they go. Even Donald Trump had something nice to say about it.
But I have to tell you, the biggest pop culture here broke while we were in this cabinet meeting. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are engaged, and the world wants your reaction, sir.
Well, I wish him a lot of luck.
Oh.
No, I think it's. I think he's a great player. I think he's a great guy, and I think that she's a terrific person. So I wish them a lot of luck.
Surprising that he wasn't aggy about it. Bridget M, it's perfectly nice for them, but not 25 minutes of news like it was here today. 25 minutes of news like it was here today. It hasn't been 25 minutes of news, has it, here today? I haven't talked about it for 25 minutes of news today. I've talked about it very briefly. Did I, Bridget M? It's been 25, it's been everywhere else. But the question I do want to ask is should one throw shade on anyone who finds stuff like this fun and nice and pleasant? I think we need to be careful. I think we can't pick and choose how and in what areas people find their respite or find their break. And just because you can be into this doesn't mean you're not necessarily engaged with absolutely everything else. Personally, I could give a flying fuck, but at the end of the day, in Australia, Bridget M. got you. Yeah, but obviously the world's media is all over this like a rash. And the problem here is, and this is actually a major issue with news like this, is that I've noticed that whenever there is big kind of pop culture news, it seems that other kind of atrocities try to happen under the radar. So whenever the news like this happens, I always kind of go, rather than being interested in it, there it is. I go, okay, well, what is actually happening today over there? Do you know what I mean? I'm sure Israel will probably do something today, thinking everyone's distracted by Taylor Swift. But anyway, it was just a thought. We're not going to talk about the speculation that Donald Trump is not long for this world, but we will on another day. Thank you for all of your comments. Thanks for all of your contributions, guys. Thanks for sharing in the frustration, the heartache, the heartbreak, the disbelief as well. News, that's a good point, Elaine Denning. News should be a mix of good and bad, or we'd all go mad. I think that's a fair point. It's a fair point. And on that note, for members, we will see you at 8 o'clock tonight, and there will be a vlog landing today as well to keep you entertained. All right, guys, lots of love. Take care. Bye.